Derek Langston, a 22-year-old black college senior, was driving home from his night shift at the local grocery store. It was just past 9:30 p.m., and the sky had darkened earlier than usual with heavy clouds rolling in. The weather app had issued a warning for possible rain, but it hadn't started yet. Derek, tired but alert, didn't think to turn on his headlights since visibility was still decent under the streetlights. He was just 3 blocks from his apartment when he noticed flashing red and blue lights in his rearview mirror. With a sigh, he pulled over slowly to the side of the road, his hands already resting on the wheel in full view, like he was taught to do. What started as a routine traffic stop would soon escalate into something far more violent and far more unjust. The police cruiser pulled up aggressively behind Derek's car. 2 white officers stormed out of the vehicle, one with his hand on his holstered weapon. They didn't approach like professionals, no calm inquiry or polite knock on the window. Instead, one officer shouted, "Roll down your window now." Derek responded, "Sure, sir," just reaching for the button, moving slowly and deliberately. But even before he could touch the control, the other officer raised a flashlight and smashed the driver's side window. Glass shattered across Derek's lap and face, cutting his cheek. "Get out of the car now," they barked, grabbing him through the broken window like he was a criminal. Confused, injured, and frightened, Derek stammered, "What did I do?" Pinned against his own vehicle, Derek was handcuffed as one officer barked, "You were driving without your headlights on? In weather like this, that's reckless endangerment." Derek tried to explain that it wasn't raining yet, that the lights from the street gave enough visibility, but his words were drowned out by one of the cops shouting, "Shut up and answer when spoken to." A small crowd began to form at a distance, drawn by the sound of the shattered window and the flashing lights. Several people took out their phones to record. One bystander, a middle-aged woman, called out, "He didn't even do anything. Leave that boy alone." But the officers ignored the growing attention. Back at the precinct, a supervisor reviewed the footage from both the officers' body cams and civilian video. The commanding officer, a Latina woman named LT Ruiz, was visibly disturbed. "This wasn't protocol," she muttered as she watched one officer break the glass unprovoked. Derek had complied with all verbal commands, and there had been no indication of threat. The supposed violation failure to use headlights didn't justify a forced extraction or destruction of property. She called internal affairs immediately, knowing that this case wasn't going to be swept under the rug this time. The department had already been under scrutiny for racial bias complaints, and this incident only added fuel to the fire. Derek, released hours later with no charges, was shaken and bleeding. His parents met him at the station, outraged and heartbroken. "You could have been killed over headlights," his mother said through tears. Derek could barely speak, still processing the night's trauma. A local journalist who'd been tipped off by a bystander asked for an interview. "They never asked me anything. Just came at me like I was dangerous over lights." "Not even rain yet," Derek whispered, his voice cracking. By the next morning, the story was all over social media and local news. Young black man dragged from car by police over headlights in dry weather. The video clips added undeniable evidence to the narrative. Protests swelled in front of the police department, led by local activists and students from Derek's university. Signs reading "Driving while black is not a crime" and "Justice for Derek" filled the streets. The city's mayor, pressured by public outcry, announced an independent investigation into the officer's conduct. Civil rights attorneys offered to represent Derek pro bono, and prominent organizations began to take an interest. The 2 officers involved were placed on immediate suspension pending investigation. For once, it seemed accountability might follow. Despite public support, Derek struggled emotionally. He couldn't sleep, the sound of shattering glass haunted him. He stopped driving altogether, and his grades began to suffer. His university arranged for trauma counseling, and his professors gave him leeway with assignments. "It shouldn't have to come to this for people to care," he told his counselor one day. But amid the pain, something else emerged: Derek's quiet determination to fight back. He began working with a local justice group to speak at schools about racial profiling, sharing his story not just to heal, but to make change. Months later, After public hearings, internal reviews, and nationwide attention, both officers were terminated. One faced assault charges. The city settled with Derek for a substantial amount, part of which he used to start a non-profit focused on legal literacy and youth empowerment. The trauma never fully left him, but neither did his courage. What began as a terrifying moment became a movement, one young black man turning his pain into power and forcing a broken system to look at itself in the mirror. And all of it began, ironically, with a traffic stop that should have ended with a simple warning.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you found this content meaningful, click like and subscribe so you won't miss the next powerful story. Tomorrow will bring you another that matters.